Hey lovely fellow felters, today we're going to be making the second part of our festive lantern diorama, and we're going to be making this really dinky festive Christmas stocking. My name is Charlotte Allen and you have reached my channel, The Felting Alchemist. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make this Christmas stocking. It's entirely made from wool. Again, there's no armature or anything in it like that. It's really dinky, so it's going to be for something like a mouse or a rabbit when we come to add our character into the diorama later on. But it's a really straightforward make. It doesn't take very long to make it at all, and you can add your own kind of accents to it. I've got this kind of zigzag pattern here, but you could add dots, you could add stripes, you could add anything you want to. You can do it in all kinds of colours. You could even make it a little tree decoration and pop it on the Christmas tree like this. So there's loads of stuff you can do with it, and it's even got kind of a little kind of black bit there just to make it look more 3D, like Father Christmas could actually put presents inside it. So I'm really excited to show you this. So let's get stuck in and I'll show you how I made this stocking. Okay, so this is a really quick, really super easy tutorial, and we're going to be making the Christmas stocking. Now I've got a red wool that's here, but you don't have to use red if you don't want to. You can use any colour you want, but I like red because it's nice and festive. And I've gone for this lovely Pillar Box red here. I do apologise, I've just had a coughing fit, so I can't guarantee it won't happen again, but I'll try and stifle my coughs if I can. Okay, so I've got my multi-tool here, my 7-needle multi-tool, and inside I've got my 7 triangular needles. And this is great because it's all on a spring, so it really bounces as you push it into the brush mat. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to start off by felting down this top part here. And you can make these as big or as small as you want to. Obviously, the smaller you make it, the more tricky it's going to be to kind of get all that detail in. I'm going to go for kind of like a mid-range size here. So I'm going to start off by felting this bit down here. Now, as we all know, a stocking kind of pulls forward like this. So I'm just going to move my wool a little bit, pull it round. So I'm kind of creating a bit of an L shape, like so. And then I'm just going to flip it over and I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. Just going to pull that round a bit more. And I'm just going to flip it over again. Next, I'm just going to pull over these loose fibres here. So I've got probably about 1.5 centimetres to 2 centimetres of loose fibre that I'm pulling over. If you've got more than that, I would just pull it away with your fingers and then felt it down. But I like to pull these in so you get this nice sharp edge here then. Just going to pull this in here. And then I'm just going to pull this part in here so we're getting the toe there. I'm just going to pull it in to this section here. And then I'm just going to pull this top bit down here. Just to make that nice and neat. So I've got something to work on in a moment. And then I'm just going to flip it over and do the same on the other side again. There we go. Now I want to put a bit more red wool here because this is a bit wispy at the moment. It's not quite as solid as I'd like it. So I'm just going to take a little bit more of that red wool, put it down on the end of the foot, felt it down into what we've already felted. And again, just bring those edges over to that nice, neat, smooth line. Just mind your fingers as you're pulling the wool over and then felting it down. And you could use felting gloves for this if you wanted to. And it is quite difficult to stab yourself with this because you're very much felting downwards, but it would be quite easy to do this and then kind of misjudge the timing and accidentally skew your fingers with 7 felting needles. So just go careful. Okay. So I'm just going to bring that bit in a little bit more there. That is the very first stage done. So we've got the shape of our Christmas stocking. So the next thing to do is move back over to my regular felting mat. Right, so I've got my stocking here. And the next thing I want to do is I want to add a bit of white wool to the very top of my stocking, like a Santa's hat. So I've got some of my, I think this is a Gotland white core wool here. That's nice and soft and short fibred. So it works perfectly for this. So I've got quite a thick piece here. You want it to be quite thick because you really want to gather this up and really create some volume here. So I'm just going to hold it and I'm going to go past this kind of the top of my, sort of where the hole would be here. And then I'm just going to get my fine needles, my fine twisted needles, and just tack it down very roughly. And just keep lifting this because you're working in very close proximity to your felting mat. What you don't want is for it to adhere to your felting mat. So as you're felting, just keep lifting it as well. Okay, I'm just going to bring this, use my needles, I'm using them side by side here, or one over the other I should say, and I'm just felting it upwards like this. I'm just going to spin it round, and I'm just going to bring this over on itself, around the other side, like so. And then I'm just going to bring it back round again. There's an extra piece here. If your piece is shorter and you can't do this, don't worry, you can just add more, it's not a problem. And because it's a wool bats, what you'll find is that you don't really see any joins because the wool bats is generally very lofty. So I'm just going to bring this bit over here. When you're felting now, just go very lightly. Try not to go through to the other side, because what you'll find is that you'll end up with the red coming through. So just be very tentative with it, if you like. Don't go down too heavily on it. So I'm just very lightly felting, not all the way down through to the other side. I'm just going to bring those last few fibres over. There we go. So we've got the white in place. It's looking a bit messy at the moment. I'm just going to sort out that naughty bit of red there that's escaping. So what I want to do next is I want to create more of a kind of like a fatter look. So I'm just going to go with my needles and just felt down into this top part here. Felt it downwards so it's not quite as high. Just keep my fingers out of the way as I do this. And then just a bit more on the other side. There we go. Next, we want to get some black wool bats, and just to create that sense of depth to our stocking, like you could actually put something inside it, I'm just going to take a little bit and I'm going to place it just at the top of the stocking. Don't want that yellow in there. No. At the top of the stocking, okay, where we've just felted. And this is going to be a bit tricky now. I'm trying to sort of show you and not stab myself at the same time, but what you want to do is just felt a little area of black just at the top of the stocking, to make it look like it's got a little hole in the top. Just take your time with this, because it's a very flat piece, you kind of need to hold it up in order to get the black in, and you don't want to stab yourself, so just be very careful. So I'm just using my needles just to pull over that black wool bats, and try and push it down so you're creating that illusion of depth. Okay, you don't want it to sit flush with the white, because then you'll lose that look of it being an actual hole. So try and felt it down to get a bit of depth there, so it's kind of dipping into the white, if you're able to. So I'm just going to go for a few more stabs here. So that looks good. So I've got my hole in place. So you could, if you wanted to, stop there. You've got your stocking ready. But I want to do a few more little bits and pieces to it before it's done. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a different colour. So I'm going to take this spangly, bangly, glittery, kind of slightly bluey, turquoisey coloured wool bats here. I'm not sure if it's a merino or a Corriedale, but it's a very nice wool. It's another one from the makers. It's very nice for mermaids and things like that. But I'm going to use it on my stocking because I quite like it. It's not overtly festive green, but you still have the lovely sparkles in it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small strip, like so, split that in half, and I'm just going to put a few details. So I'm just going to swap my medium needle out for my extra fine needle here, just so I've got a bit more control over what I'm doing. And I'm just going to very carefully felt in some zigzags. Now, again, you want to make sure that you're not going all the way through to the other side into the mat, because what you'll find then is this will come through to the other side, which isn't terrible because we can put some more on this side, but then you have to try and match it up on the same side with the same pattern, which can be quite tricky. So try and make sure that when you're doing this, if you decide that you want to do this part, that you're kind of going through the stocking, but not all the way through, okay? It just makes life a lot easier for you in the long run. So I'm just using my needle and manipulating the wool up and down to create a bit of a zigzag pattern. And I'm just sort of trying to kind of without going too deeply. Felt it enough so it's nicely adhered to my stocking. And then just using the needles just to really create some shaping there, like you would see on a regular stocking. Okay, just going to lift that off a sec. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm just going to flip it round. You can see here it's come through a little bit anyway. I'm going to just try and follow the pattern that I've already added. And then once I reach the end, I'm just going to take my embroidery scissors, just trim away that excess there. And then I'm just going to felt down those last few fibres there, just to tidy everything up. So that's the first layer of zigzags added. So I'm going to go and add another layer now, and I'll be back in a second once that's been added into place. Okay, so I've added the 2 zigzags to the stocking on both sides. So the very last thing to do is create something to hook our stocking up with. So I'm going to make a little loop for our stocking so it can hang somewhere when we come to add it into our diorama later. So I'm going to move this out of the way again. I'm going to go back to my brush mat and I'm going to go back to the red wool. And I'm just going to take a strip of the red wool. That's probably about enough. I'm just going to take my felting needles and I'm just going to felt a really, really basic strip. I'm just going to keep lifting it and turning it until I've got something that's relatively thick but also thin. Okay, so I've got something relatively thin now, so I'm just going to swap back over to my needle felting mat now. So I want my loop to be big enough so I can kind of hang my stocking easily, so probably something like this, and I want to catch it here. So what I'm going to do is just take my embroidery scissors and just cut some ends, just so we're working with the right amount of wool. So that looks good. So this is a bit fluffy at the moment, so I'm just going to take my needles and just give it a bit more of a stab, just to get this looking a bit more like one solid strip rather than a really fibrous piece of wool, if that makes sense. So just lifting lots, excuse me, lifting lots so it doesn't adhere to the mat, just pushing in those loose fibres. Okay, so now we've got our strip made, the next thing to do is add it into the stocking. So I'm just going to take my strip, I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to place it about here, and I'm just going to felt it down into that black we've added. Fear not. In hindsight, I probably should have added the black as the last thing, but it doesn't matter. We can just add a little bit more just to hide this in a minute. There's always a workaround with needle felting. That is why I love it. Okay, so I've got my loop added. I'm just going to get a little bit more black, place that over the red that we don't want to be seen. And there you are. There is a very sweet, very tiny needle felted stocking for any little creature that wants to receive a gift from Father Christmas on New Year's Eve. So this was a really quick make and a really super easy tutorial. If you found it useful and you enjoyed it, please like it, because it just means that it gets shared with more people that are trying to learn needle felting at the moment. And I really want to get needle felting out to as many people as possible because it's just such a wonderful craft. So I will see you tomorrow with another tutorial. Until then, have a great day, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.